Hello and welcome to the Pandaverse. My name is Elgon Williams. I'm here with the two Christines, Christine Davis and Christine Gabriel. And I'm also here with Tony Ollivier, who's the author of the AMSTERDAM Deception. And it's a novel that was released a little earlier this year. And we're going to start with a reading from Tony. Tony, you want to tell us a little about yourself and the book?
Sure. Thanks, Elgon. So I'm Tony Ollivier. I'm, I think, the only Canadian on this call today. I'm in Vancouver, Canada. I've lived in Canada all my life. But in different jobs that I've had, I've worked in the software industry for a number of years. I've had a chance to travel worldwide on somebody else's dime, which is always great. And my wife of about 25 years is also a ballet teacher, and she went to the National Ballet School in Toronto many years ago. And I've been writing for a while, and I had an idea to use a ballet dancer as a main character. And the book, The AMSTERDAM Deception, is essentially a spy thriller with a ballet dancer as the main character. It actually features the National Ballet of Canada as the sort of as a backdrop. But my character is stuck in Amsterdam. He's been injected with the memories of a dead spy in order to retrieve some information from the spy's memory. And I'm just going to read from about the sort of one of the early chapters just after he's been injected with these memories. David couldn't move, couldn't hear, couldn't see. He tried to open up his eyes, but at first nothing happened. In the distance, he saw something, a small white light, small at first, but growing larger and larger into a hot white scalding light. He squeezed his eyes shut, but the light blasted through his eyelids. He wanted the cool darkness again. He couldn't move his arms or legs like they'd been cast in concrete. A beat pounded in his ears. Was he even alive? Disinfectant and the metallic odor of spilled blood assaulted his nose. He pushed, this time feeling the thin edge of something holding him into place. Where was he? Why couldn't he move? He tried to grab at anything in his head, but he couldn't even remember his own name. A blast of memories hit him, random, disconnected images of shapes, people, and objects. The color red, sounds of a helicopter, the smell of burnt flesh, the strumming of a blues guitar. Then the memories vanished like smoke. He heard whispers in the background, calm, quiet voices, a woman and a man, both English. How's our patient doing, nurse? Patient? He must be in a hospital. What happened? A strong odor moved close, sweat and perfume mixed with curry. A rough finger yanked his eyelid open, blinding him with a sharp light. He tried to close them, but something held his eyelids open. He tried to twist away from the light, but his neck was locked in steel. He tried to yell, but nothing came out. Sand filled his mouth. Was he going to be tortured again? The question bounced in his head like it didn't make any sense. His pupils look fine. There's good brain activity, the man's voice said. Water, David whispered. A straw appeared at his lips, and he sucked in a small bit of cold water down his throat. A female voice said, just a sip, David. David? Was that his name? No, it was something else. David sounded right, but it wasn't. At the same time, it didn't. You've had a rough time of it, she said. How are you feeling? He grappled inside his head for the answer. It was at his fingertips, but each time he went to grasp the answer, it faded again into vapor, but then the answer surfaced. A truck. What? Like a truck ran over me. He heard laughter. The voice changed from caring to concern. The man's voice again. Based on his vitals, he should be feeling better, but if pain's an issue, we can prescribe an analgesic. Nothing with opioids, however, that could cause problems with the extraction. Extraction? He kept his eyes closed, but inside a wall of fear built up, enormous and paranoid. Emotions crashed like heavy waves into a shore, every few seconds a different feeling. Sadness, happiness, fear, guilt, and rage cycled back and forth, different sensations. Hundreds of needles poking at his feet and stopping. A fever washing over his body from head to toe and disappeared. What did he know? Two people in the room plus him, male and female. The male was in a dominant position, a doctor perhaps. David, do you remember what happened to you? The man asked. No, he couldn't move his head to shake it. A wide strap across his forehead. Similar straps across his arms and legs cut into his skin. Please relax. We've restrained you for your protection. Struggling won't help you recover. He unclenched his hands and relaxed his legs, even though through the fear grabbed him tight. Illness? He didn't remember being sick. When he searched for a coherent memory, he remembered nothing. Doctor, his blood pressure and heart rate are still elevated, the nurse said. David fought for long and slow breaths, trying to push the fear away, but the anxiety remained, causing his body to shiver and shake. Something formed in his mind and screamed to take notice. A disembodied something, but he understood the message. He had to escape. Thank you.
Yeah, I remember to unmute my mic that time. That's good.
Very well done.
No, thank you.
I liked it very much.
Yeah, it was very good. I like the way your book starts out in, it creates the setting,
Yes.
where it's at in Amsterdam, and it's very descriptive.
Yes.
You talk about, the sights, and you get a feeling that you're actually there, which is really good.
I mean, right from the beginning.
And you create the background really well. And you immediately build the tension, that, there's something gonna happen here. And of course, you're picking up a mystery novel, a spy thriller, so you know something's gonna happen because, you read the back cover of the book. But it creates a theme and a feeling, and then it builds from there, and you carry it on, and it keeps building the tension and the tension. And as you're realizing that the mystery's being resolved like one step at a time, but you're not really sure what's going on because the internal conflict between David and this other person's memories who's been inserted into his mind, and there's a constant battle there. So I think you did a really good job on that, and it should be obvious to everyone. You are well traveled, but it's not like you do it on leisure. It's the business that you've been doing over the years.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people will be very interested in figuring out or finding out what inspired you to become a novelist and to write this type of story.
Well, I've probably been writing for 20 odd years, and I sort of have a marker when my son was born. I think I'd taken some courses before that, but I'd always wanted to write a novel and didn't really know how to back at that time. And I took a couple of courses at some night school, and then I attended a writers conference in Vancouver, and talked to several writers. I've got a mentor, an older mentor writer who's in Seattle right now, and he really helped me get going. And part of it is confidence, right? Being able to sort of figure out your way. It's a bit like, I think Neil Gaiman talks about, writing a story is a bit like driving your car at night in the fog. Your headlights light up just enough to make you so you can keep driving, but doesn't show you the whole way. And writing a book, I find, is very much like that. And then I was fortunate enough to be sent to these places when I was, and I've worked for Apple, IBM, and Microsoft, and these companies sent me around the world at various times, and I always tried to figure out a way to get an extra day or so in, whether I was in Paris or Amsterdam or other places. And I remember taking one of my first digital cameras. This is probably 15 years ago, taking around and taking pictures. And now, of course, you carry your camera with you with your phone. So my picture quality's gotten up gotten way higher as
Hmm.
the more that I've traveled. But for anybody that's watching this that haven't traveled for the last couple months, I can hardly wait to start traveling again. I
I
don't
used to
think
have
I've spent.
one of those Kodak cameras that you put the floppy drive in.
Yeah.
That was my first digital camera.
Yeah.
And I paid a lot of money for that thing too. I mean, they were expensive, like
Yeah.
back in the 90s.
Yeah.
First one. And I think I recall you could put like 4 or 5 pictures at the highest resolution on floppy drive.
Yeah.
That's
4
how
or
bad.
5. Yeah.
That's how bad the image quality was, because the floppy holds 1.44 megabytes.
Yeah.
Not gigabytes, megabytes.
Yeah.
I was wondering, what did you do for Apple and the other companies that you worked for? And do you, from your past work, do you try to incorporate that into your books a lot?
I do, actually. So I've essentially been in not sort of direct sales, but I've been sort of a specialist in a couple of different areas. And so they sent me around to talk to customers and do customer presentations. So the last time I was in Amsterdam, I did a presentation to one of the banks in the Netherlands. And actually, I'm writing a sequel right now to this novel, and there's a lot of sort of cybersecurity aspect to it, and so there's certainly that portion of it. But I've always been a fan of sort of technology in general. So this book has got some technology in it, some interesting technology, and the sequel has also got some sort of a different. It's almost pulled from the headlines. It's not quite science fiction because it's more close to sort of near science. But I've certainly got that kind of bent in the stuff I read and stuff I like to investigate.
So the company you're working for now is based in Lisbon.
Yeah.
So you gotta have a novel set in Lisbon.
It's I think it's coming. It's absolutely coming. Lisbon is and Portugal itself is a fabulous place, and I just started working there in December, and I've been over there twice, and I'm waiting for the planes to start flying again in order to get back over.
Where would you say is your most favorite place that you've visited so far?
So it's a bit of a toss-up between all the European countries, Amsterdam and Paris and London, and those are really fabulous in a bunch of different ways. There's such history in. We were in this summer. We were over in London and Scotland, and investigated a bunch of different things in both cities. Actually did a Jack the Ripper tour in London when we were there, which was really
that's
interesting.
cool.
Yeah, it was really interesting. But the sequel for the book, it takes place mostly in Tokyo, and I've been to Japan probably a half a dozen times, and I learned a little bit of Japanese. I can't say that I'm anywhere fluent, but I learned some of the words. But Japan is really interesting. So that's up there. And Singapore, I've been to Singapore a number of times, and it's interesting. Singapore is interesting because it's a authoritarian democracy, right? It's very clean, very safe, very high level of education. The food is wonderful, but it's very quite controlled, right? So it's interesting going to a place that has sort of that level of lockdown, but at the same time, I felt completely safe and ate and shopped my heart out. I was there last time.
So tell us about your main character. Tell us about David. What inspired you to create him?
So David is he's about a 21-year-old male ballet dancer that's in the core of the National Ballet. And if you look at it at a ballet company, there is the soloist, there is the core spree, and then there is the kind of the intern or the apprentice ballet dancers. And my wife went to the National Ballet School, which is kind of a feeder school into the National Ballet in Toronto. And actually, my wife and I were before children, we were traveling over in France and Europe a bunch of years ago. And we actually saw a ballet in Bordeaux. It was in the middle of the summer. We went and saw this ballet. And there was one piece that we saw that was all male. It was just all the male dancers that put this, were in dancing together. And it really struck me how, and it's a little bit obvious, but it really struck me how athletic the male dancers are, right? It's just, they're not football players or bodybuilders, but they're incredibly strong and incredibly athletic. And I was reading a lot of spy novels at the time as we were flying over there, and I just thought, well, that'd be a really interesting character to take a ballet dancer, somebody that is physically, very physically accomplished, but not, they're not, it's not an ex-Navy SEAL. He doesn't have sort of hand-to-hand combat skills, but what if he was implanted with those skills? What would happen? So that was kind of the
I love how you did that, how you fused the two together. I think it made your book very interesting. It was amazing. I think you did very well with that.
Oh, thank you.
I also think it was really good taking, a lot of people take like in books, you see them focusing on female dancers being the leads of anything with inserting ballet into any type of story. And it's so different. And I think refreshing to see that you concentrated on the male dancers and made him the focus of the story. That gives it a very unique feeling.
Yeah, it is unique. I don't think there's any other male ballet dancer spy novel out there. There's
I don't think so.
Yeah, I've looked.
Yeah.
And so far there isn't.
So in the future, is David going to come up on the radar with the international intelligence community, the CIA and NSA and all the other alphabet soup agencies around the world? I'm not even sure what that agency is called in Canada, but I know they have one.
They are watching. They are watching his progress, and I don't want to give too much away in the book, but a three-letter agency is involved, sort of at a distance to see what's going on and watching what's going on.
I was wondering, you said that a lot of the places that you went, like Amsterdam, and they had so much history, especially, Tokyo in Japan. I mean, that just has a lot of history too. Are you incorporating, historical aspects into your novels?
No, I'm not doing any historical novels. But I am incorporating, a lot of the, from a setting point of view, I'm trying to really capture, the feel for the individual city, the smell and what the streets look like, and the kind of food that people eat and everything. So I try really hard to make sure it's as, if you've never been to that city, you've only sort of seen it in movies, that you come away with a better sense, and hopefully wanting to go to those cities, sort of walk around the same places that my character is.
Oh, it created an atmosphere.
Yes.
Good, yeah.
In this book, and the next one, I think almost every setting, there's a hotel in Paris that I have my character in, and I stayed at that hotel. So it's not some stuff, it's fiction, so you have to make it up, but in most cases it's places I've been, and I've either taken pictures, or I've got a really good sense of what it looks like.
Yeah, I find when you're writing a story, that if the background information in the setting, and some of the characters' personalities or whatever remind you of your own past. You're a lot more comfortable with creating a story around that or telling a story. And then elements of the story may actually be factual as well. Sometimes you write out something and you'll actually have real people's names in it because you're remembering events. And then you go back and in revisions and you change the names and you distort it enough so you won't get in trouble. But I forget who it was. One of the authors I know was telling me that he never writes something that he lets his family read until he's gone through and distorted everything. And then, if everybody in his family reads it and nobody sees anything that reminds them of anybody that's in his family, he knows it's good to go.
Right.
So tell us, Tony, how many books are you planning to write for this series?
Right now, I'm a second draft. I'm almost through a second draft of the second one. I think I'll do. Right now, I've got sort of 3 in my head total. So I've got one more after that, and see if it becomes wildly successful. I'll keep writing, but I sort of 3 is kind of what I had from a total arc.
And if there's anything you could tell your readers, what would you tell them?
Well, for prospective readers, is that it's an unusual main character. So sort of set in a ballet dancer and a ballet company is unusual for somebody that reads Lee Child or Robert Ludlum, right? It's a little unusual, but it's not about ballet. It's really the setting. But it is it's a traditional high stakes suspense. The character's in jeopardy all the time. How can he get out of this situation? There's some interesting twists as you go through it. It's a bit of good and evil. One of the other antagonists is a TV evangelist that makes lots of money off people sending them money, sending in donations. That he's somewhat fraudulent. So it's kind of a story of corporate greed and sort of religious fervitude, I guess you could say. So it's I've been so close to it. I thought it was a good story, but the number of reviews I've gotten from people that have read it and they've really liked it, so it makes me very happy.
Do you know where you're going to go after you finish the third book? Another story, creating another character?
Oh, I've got a number of other characters. I've got a first draft of a book that is. I seem to create weird characters. I have a stand-up comedian who becomes an assassin.
Oh, that's
awesome.
awesome.
He kills on stage and off stage is the sort of the tagline.
That's a good one.
Wow.
That's not strange too far from reality either. Comedy's kind of competitive. I've met some comedians.
Comedy's a cutthroat business.
Yeah. And what's funny about comedy, my brother was a stand-up comedian for a number of years in Canada, and my son just graduated from a university in England with a degree in comedy. So I don't get paid for it, but I thought that was an interesting. I don't know how I came up with that particular idea, but I seem to write these strange, put these sort of strange main characters in tough situations that they have to get out of. So we'll see how that one works.
I was watching a documentary the other day on Rodney Dangerfield, on his life and his career, and I always associated him with Johnny Carson, but the amazing thing was with Johnny Carson, used a joke that Rodney, before he was like a household name, accused him of stealing, or his writers stealing, and that probably did happen because that happens all the time. And Carson wouldn't talk to him for years until Rodney apologized for that whole thing, and then he invited him to go.
Yeah, that's funny.
So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that happens. I met Jim Gaffigan at one of his shows. The meet and greet afterwards, and my daughter's really into his comedy, and it was a good show. It was really funny. But during the meet and greet, my daughter's wearing I don't know if you know his comedy or anything, but he had a comedy routine early on in his career where he talks about pandas, and which is ironic because we're with pandas.
Yeah.
But, my daughter's wearing this shirt with a panda on it, and he made a comment about her shirt, and she wanted her shirt autographed, and he said, "Oh, wait a second, I don't want to be accused of being a pedophile here," And I told him a kind of a joke that I use a lot because I sunburn very easily, and in his routine he talks about being so pale and light skinned, and I told him that I'm so fair complected that if I walk past a picture of the sunset, I get a sunburn.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, he kind of chuckled. He said, "That's almost good enough to steal." So I said,
Yeah, I'll steal that one from you because I burn easy too.
This has been wonderful. I think, Tony, your book is, it's one of my favorite books now that I've read. You've made me a lover of all things thrilling. So I highly suggest this book to anybody. And you can where can you get this book? Tony, tell everybody where you can get this book.
It's available on Amazon right now. I believe you can order it today from the through the Pandamoon site as well.
we have all of our books listed up there. If you're looking for a print book, you can order it directly from there. And because of the delays on print books through Amazon, you'll probably get it faster through us.
Yeah.
But the book's available on Amazon, and it's still on the Kindle program, the Kindle Unlimited. So if you have an unlimited membership, you can read it for free. And just spread the word about it. It's a new novel from a new author, and it's really good stuff.
Yeah, come on to our book club at High Society Book Club on Facebook, and I'll give you some author takeover time, Tony.
Oh, great. I will do that.
Sure
Okay.
thing.
All right. Well, we're going to end it there for the evening, and thank you for doing that reading, Tony. That was awesome. And
It was great.
It was wonderful.
Well, great. Hey, thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.